Hi, webinar watchers. This is present-day Misha talking to you. A few weeks ago, I was hired to cut a freelance project, an inspirational piece about running, and with permission from the director, I screen captured about 5 hours of the editing process over the span of a few days. I've condensed it down to about an hour, but basically you're about to watch me think up the hundreds of tiny ideas that add up to the sum of one larger video. In the parts where I've had to condense this a little bit, I've added present-day Misha's wisdom. At the very end of the webinar, I'll show you the locked cut, which naturally has some big twists to it. Then I'll step through that cut, shot by shot, and show you how each decision was ultimately made. You're going to learn a ton. All right, let's get started.
Okay, welcome to the first ever attempt at editing out loud. This is music and a temp,
Your first challenge.
temp VO that I recorded earlier today. This is the music that the client wanted, although we may change that later. Before I start watching the footage also, let's just bring up some of the bins. They didn't use slates for this, which is a little annoying. If they had slates, I would know ABCD setup, but because they don't, I kind of got to just sift through real quick and figure that out. So if you're ever a director and you're wondering why you need slates, one reason is certainly because like this shot is different than the rest. And if I didn't know that, it might be harder for me to figure out how to cut this together. So I'm just going to artificially name this one take one. A lot of editors like to work in frame view. I'm kind of no exception to that. So I'm still kind of prepping dailies. I actually haven't even watched this yet. We're going to say this is out on street. Another reason why it's good to give people scene and take numbers. According to the script, we don't actually have scene and take numbers. When I read the script, I also don't know what footage needs to come first, which is I think a little unusual. Normally a script would say like scene one, take one, but right now I don't actually know that footage that I just showed you comes first. The only thing I've got to go on for sure is that the director told me the garage opens up first. I know this is supposed to be the first shot, but then after that, I don't exactly know what's supposed to be the first shot, and I really should talk to the director about that, so I'll probably make a phone call in a few minutes while I'm trying to figure that out. It's also going to cause me to rename these things. One take one is probably going to end up being two take one. This looks like a 3A, because it's a different angle, a 3B. As I'm watching this, I'm also already getting ideas of how I want to put this together. For example, I know there has to be a workout section somewhere. Does that happen at the beginning or the end of the runner's workout? Questions for the director. And yes, I do actually write myself sticky notes like this. First question is, what sequence of events do you see this happening in? Also, if you're ever wondering why it's good to have an assistant and you're wondering whether or not you should spend the money on an assistant editor, it has a lot to do with this stuff because I'm spending time setting this all up.
Future self jumping in here with a quick note. Projects should hire assistant editors anytime the cost of the assistant editor is less than the cost of the editor, and when there's technical work like this to do. Think about it. If you're paying your editor $1,200 a week, and you can get an assistant who will do this work for $800 a week, it's worth having them both work at the same time. Yes, you're going to spend money faster, but you're also going to get your project done faster, which actually means it'll cost you less to do overall.
I am starting to feel like maybe this should be scene 4 and scene 5, because this is going to be scene 5 for sure, or 6 even. So I'm going to name this 5 take 1 instead, and this is going to be 5B take 1. Again, when I break this out, the director is going to he's going to say something like, hey, we shot all that footage in the woods. Where is it? And then I'm going to have to pull it up real quick. And I left off about 2 hours ago with I was going to make a phone call to the director. I did do that. This order was completely destroyed. I got rid of it. And this is why you need to talk to people before you start working. I think a lot of people will just start editing hoping that they'll figure out how to do it along the way, but really, how would I have ever known that this was the order this was going to go? It might not be the final order, but at least this is the order that the director had in mind. My project is finally organized. I'm going to take 30 minutes or so to watch the footage and mark it up, and then I'll be back for the actual editing motif.
Future self here. Here are the key takeaways from the organizational section. Organization should be done before you start your editing. Use the organization to help you come up with an editing plan. And don't be shy to ask the director about the order of events if you're not sure how the project is intended to be put together. Even if it doesn't end up that way, you should at least know the plan.
Let's get cutting. I've got a sequence running inspirational video V1. The first thing I like to do is lay down the script. I made a little temp VO. I'm just going to go ahead and cut this in. And you're going to hear my own voice because all editors do their own temps, or they get their assistants to do their temps, either way.
It's not about the distance, the speed, the destination. It's not about the shoes you wear, or the number on your back, or how long you've been doing it, or how new you are.
I try to get into the mood.
Running is about learning to take a step. It's about the step that begins your first challenge.
I have a feeling that is going to be closer together. If you're wondering why I'm leaving spaces between the lines the way that I am, it's because the script is kind of written like a poem. Even though this might make a full sentence, that begins your first challenge, though you're unsure of it, you could read it both ways. You could say, that begins your first challenge, though you're unsure of it. Or you could say, that begins your first challenge, though you're unsure of it. The space is kind of up to you. There are some spots where I feel like the space is going to be good, and some spots where I feel like the space is going to be bad. In this case, I felt like the space was bad.
It's about learning to take a step.
Command backslash to see this whole, oh my goodness, there's a lot to go. But that's because I screw up a line.
Future self, don't worry, you don't have to watch me lay down that entire VO. Just get rid of any repeating lines and pick the best temp performances that you can.
All right, the end. Now I need another audio track. I'm actually going to need a bunch. Let's do Command U and create a few spaces for sound effects, and then Shift Command U to create one stereo clip for my music. And I'm just going to throw in my music too. Normally, you never cut in the music before you start editing, but in this case, the music is going to drive so much of the cuts that I just want to know what it feels like in there. Nice inspirational piece. There it goes. So now,
The speed, the destination. It's not about the shoes you wear.
we've got kind of a starting point. The other thing I like to do is I'm going to give my music a color. I'm going to give it the color blue. And I'm going to tell my timeline here to show me the clip color. And I'm just going to say, show me the source's clip color. Now it's blue. It stands out a little bit. So now that I'm starting to edit, let's go to the garage. Normally I just start cutting as I'm thinking about how everything should go together. At some point you do have to watch all the footage. You do have to see it all if there is time for that. These 5 clips are pretty much the same. Just this garage door opening. By the way, all the footage is MOS. The first thing that I notice about this clip is it takes a really long time for that garage door to open. Okay, without further ado, I'm sort of making my first cut here. Just throwing it in. When I listened to this dialogue here playing, it made me feel like I wanted some space before hearing the song kick in.
It's not about...
I'm thinking maybe the dialogue only starts here. I use segment mode quite a bit, especially in this early stage, while I'm just still assembling everything. Let's just grab these tracks, Command L to shrink them, because they're mostly going to be in the way at first, since I have no sound effects. Let's see where we are. Cool, a little more black at the head. I really want that door to start opening right on that first sound. Holding down Shift, I'm finding the sound. Here, I really want that first light to crack. The light there. I'm just dropping a locator on it for a hot second. Highlight the clip. Use Shift to select both ends, and I'm just going to slip it so that my second locator just kind of happens right there at the playhead. Let's see if this is right. Yeah. Another thing that I kind of thought up, the workout stuff, the director said I didn't have to put it in, but you always want to put it in if you can.
If Future Self here. The rules for the director's cut are that you have to use every camera setup and you have to use every line in the script. You can learn more about the director's cut in my director's cut webinar.
This stretching stuff, I do actually want in there. This I don't want. That's just running. Let's see a pull-up. That's kind of nice. So what I thought might be cool is to throw these exercises in between the door opening. Right on that beat. See how I'm using the music as a guide, even though I know I'm going to change this a million times. I'm just kind of using it as pace. I'm okay with this video moving down. We're not knocking anything out of sync because we don't really have any sync yet. Later on, I'll start cutting with the sync locks on, and then that stuff won't be happening. I don't have any timecode track turned on here. Show track, here we go. Timecode 1, that's the one I want. Typical Final Cut Pro 7 format, it's at the top. Let's just move it to the bottom to be avidy. That's obviously too long. We really only want this part here. Get rid of that. Cut back. Got to do the next exercise and the next beat. He's kind of looking at the camera though. Might be okay, I don't know. Let's see. First of all, it's going to be one push-up. He kind of moves at the speed of that sound, doesn't he? I'm just going to slip him to get rid of some of that pause up at the head. If you look at the music, it needs to end right around here. That's fine for now. We don't even know that that's the full concept yet. Here I kind of wish the door was a little higher, so I'm just going to chop out this bit. What other exercise? We got another exercise. So we've got stretching. This angle isn't really useful to us. We want that emotion, you know? We want those close-ups. That's not bad. What else do we have? Going back down. I like back down better. Let's see the other take. Again, we're coming up. Maybe up is better. There's definitely something for you don't want to reveal the main character's face in a sloppy way. I don't know which is better to go down or up. I'm going to create a new video track and actually put this up on V2. Yeah, now that I'm looking at it, I do want to go from down to up. Obviously, we're chopping this out. This first step here, that has to happen right on the music change. We're using the music as kind of our clue about pacing. Here, obviously, the song changed, so did our character. Something about him changed. But we also want to make sure to see his face. That's more important than the knee, so I'm just going to slip this until my B-side shows as much of his face as I actually want. Let's go back to the head here and watch what we've made. How the hell do we get him running? I don't know how we're going to get him running, but I do know that my dialogue needs to start somewhere around here.
It's not about the distance, the speed, the destination. It's not about the distance.
And then right on this downbeat here, let's cut to something else. The rest of the footage in this sequence is these really far, oh, I have an idea. The problem that we have is you can't cut to him here, already in the middle of a run. What you really want to do is show him off screen, coming into the run. Maybe we're just down the street from his house and this is him he just made the first turn.
Future Misha talking. When you're cutting a montage like this, all the shots feel random. It's important to be constantly creating a mini story in your head. That'll give you some structure, which helps pick the next shot.
It's not about the distance, the speed, the destination. It's not about the shoes you wear, or the number on your back, or how long you've been doing it, or how new you are. Running is...
That's great. Now that we've kind of used all these clips, I'm just doing a double check. I'm okay with what we've got for now. We've got push-ups, we've got knee stretches, we did that. And yes, I do actually check to make sure that I used everything. We did use this, and we did use this. We did not use this guy yet. What scene 3 looks like. Scene 3 looks a lot like scene 2, doesn't it? Oh, we've got a cool POV. Oh, that's going to fit right in. And I even gave this a yellow locator. Anything with a yellow locator that I gave, that means that I had an emotional reaction to it when I watched it for the first time, which pretty much means it's going in. It definitely means it's going in the first cut. If you're getting a feeling from something the first time you see it, that's a pretty good indication that it should go in the cut.
You are.
I'm throwing that in. And it might even be kind of a nice transition.
How long you've been doing it, or how new you are. Running is about...
Obviously, that looks a little ridiculous. But we'll see. We'll figure out how to put this thing together later.
You are. Running is about learning to take a step.
But now I feel like this could be tighter.
The number on your back, or how long you've been doing it, or how new you are. Running is about learning to take a step. It's about the step that begins your first challenge.
I think we've got enough of this shot here. What's next? Slow-mo really works well when something is close to the camera. The other cool thing about slow-mo is you don't have to use it like slow-mo. You can speed it up to regular speed and then just slow-mo when you want to, because we just have more frames per second. And zoom in. Let's see how we did.
Though you're unsure of it.
That's good enough for government work. Good enough for temp to start with.
Your first challenge. Though you're unsure of it.
The other thing that I kind of wanted to explore was this clip here. Let's just see what it looks like if I toss this in. Give ourselves a little mojo with the music.
The speed, the destination. It's not about the shoes you wear, or the number on your back, or how long you've been doing it, or how new you are. Running is about learning to take a step. It's about the step that begins your first challenge. Though you're unsure of it.
Yeah, you know what? It does work better than I thought. I know this shot's way too long right now. It's way too long, but until I kind of have everything strung out on the timeline, I'm not even really that worried about it. It's just not really relevant yet. Not until I get the story down.
In this assembly stage of editing, all I'm trying to do is figure out what order each shot should go in, and what the point of each shot is. The order is important because that's my broadest view of the story. I'm also going to try to figure out what the essence of each shot is, meaning what's the best part of the shot. Basically, I'm asking myself, Why was this shot filmed?
When you're trying to find the point of using a shot, you want to use the part that's awesome. This part is awesome. This part's not awesome. There's not awesome. Usually I'll just cut using the circle takes, the last couple takes where I feel like they got it right, before I'll start really digging to see what else I need. We're done with the sidewalk.
It's about the extra step that you are convinced you can't possibly take until you do. It's about learning to appreciate.
That's too much of this. I'm just going to get rid of that. Pebbles. This stuff is so cool. Oh man, that's so cool. But I do think we need them running left to right. That's some inspiring stuff right there. That looks so cool. Because I'm having this feeling right now, I'm just going to toss a little locator on that and say, feeling so cool. It's important to keep track of these notes because you're never going to have this feeling again. I'm going to watch this 100 more times and then I'm not going to feel like that.
Distance. It's about the extra step that you are convinced you can't possibly take until you do. It's about learning to appreciate.
That is really cool. We're using the whole frame. That's what I like.
It's about the extra step that you are convinced you can't possibly take until you do. It's about learning to appreciate the journey that exists between every stride.
Heading to the forest. Yikes. How are we going to attack this beast? Maybe this is something I should call the director about, actually. Let me just call the director about the woods. I think I'm going to do that. I'll be right back.
Future Misha here. The key to navigating a scene with a lot of footage is to start building a story. For example, if we had these 3 shots, man fishing, man in car, man eats dinner, I might make a story about a man driving to a lake to catch his dinner. Of course, I could also build a story about a man fishing after dinner, or a man fishing and not eating dinner. The point is, as long as you're building a story, your cuts will have some purpose. Eventually, as you wade through this large amount of footage, you'll figure out what that story is.
I talked to the director. So there is no order in the woods. They just shot there because it was a great, easy location, and they did get some cool shots. Now just to figure out how this is supposed to go together, I think the easiest way is you just sort of start one step in front of the other, right? This might go after the bridge. We've got a bridge here coming up. This looks like he's going fast also. Fast, fast, fast. Downhill, fast, fast. Maybe that goes here, fast. Again, I'm just working out the story. I don't know what the story is yet. Maybe the story of this section is we're running fast. Yeah, we're getting there. You know what we can do? We need to transition to the feet. This is starting to make some sense to me. We're going to go from fast, 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 and then slow this shot down to see the feet. Yeah, right here. Let's just toss this in. I have 2 ideas going on right now. I also want to throw in this bridge shot as he's crossing the bridge. Not the slow-mo one, but this as he's crossing the bridge. Let's see, he runs across this thing, and then he runs across this bridge. That doesn't quite work. Before I really start working out the placement of that bridge, I have to figure out how I'm going to get to the slow-mo. I had this idea of we're going to go fast here, move to slow-mo. This is going to be 300%. And I'm just going to type that in, which is how I should have started. So this is probably the actual speed of things. Maybe even faster. But he kind of looks like he's got a nice graceful stride there. Adding a keyframe. And give it a second. Add another keyframe. And then slow it way down to 100%. And let's just see. This isn't obviously going to stay like this. I just want to see if my idea works. Is that going to slow it down enough to get to the feet? Yeah. Are we going to go from that foot to this foot? It feels kind of like he could be at the top of the stairs. I'm not sure if slow-mo foot to slow-mo foot takes away the impact of this awesome shot. This is definitely the shot that I want the most impact on because it's pretty awesome looking. What else do we have going on in here? We have this shot in slow-mo. I don't know why we don't want this in slow-mo though. Slow-mo is better for the close-ups. We used one of these, we used one of these, we used one of these, we used one of these. We used that and that. We have not used any of this stuff. This is nice, you know? It's just graceful. I feel like that could definitely lead into the bridge. I have to check my track mapping first. So we kind of go from this thing to this thing, across the bridge. Let's let him get all the way across the bridge. 2 more angles to go. It's pretty normal when I get towards the end of a scene, a sequence or something, I kind of run out of steam. I'm just tired of trying to figure out what goes where.
It was 6 p.m. and I was getting tired, as you can probably tell by my voice, and probably by the cutting. Instead of killing myself at the computer, I went out for dinner, then I watched a TV show, and when I came back, I spent a couple of hours finishing the rough cut by burning some midnight oil. My advice is to work when you can work, but don't kill yourself. If your creative energy starts to slow down, take a break.
So last night I finished up a rough cut of this sequence, and that includes editing the music. So now this is actually a 1.5-minute long piece. I'm still not sure about the music, and I'm definitely not sure about where things are crescendoing. If you kind of look at my dialogue here, or my music rather, I have a musical change here that I can do something with, here that I can do something with, potentially here. Obviously my sequence is still a little too long because this is kind of the last note and I still have footage. I'm at about 1.5 minutes, and even though that's kind of right duration-wise, I really feel far off the mark with my cut. This doesn't feel right. The director sent me an email actually a while ago with 5 or 6 videos that he liked that are on a similar vein. And that's not uncommon at all. Directors do that sort of thing. So I watched them all. I took some notes about the technique. And just in general, to start here, generally, get rid of the things that suck in your video and make the awesome things more awesome. That's what we're trying to do. It seems so simple when I say it like that, but really, that's the fundamental point of a montage.
Good artists copy and great artists steal. I encourage you to watch similar videos to the ones you're making to get some fresh ideas. If you think you're the first person to ever edit a project like the one you're working on, you're wrong.
The need for energy and something else inside of us that just like basically is ambition.
Remember, The Departed didn't invent the organized crime movie. Neither did Casino, Reservoir Dogs, or Scarface. There is room in the world for similar stories told by different people.
It's not about the distance, the speed, the destination. It's not about the shoes you wear, or the number on your back, or how long you've been doing it, or how new you are. Running is about learning to take a step. It's about the step that begins your first challenge. Though you're unsure of it, it's the steps that explore your world and yourself at your pace, direction, distance. It's about the extra step that you are convinced you can't possibly take until you do. It's about learning to appreciate the journey that exists between every stride. We do not do it because it's easy. We run because, amidst the trial of lungs demanding breath, legs crying for rest, feet
burning for release. Our body reminds us that obstacles only exist if we choose the paths they block. That struggle is often a sign of growth, and that lives were not meant to be defined by steps we did not take.
As I watch it, there are definitely moments in it that I really like, that I want to enhance. And there's stuff about it that I feel like is so boring. I've duplicated my sequence. Notice I'm still on version 1, but I'm just calling it version 1.2. 1.2, I just made this a second ago. You can call it whatever, but it's still very much the rough cut. I don't know that I even gave just letting this first garage door opening video that much of a chance. This is kind of making me feel like the dialogue can start earlier, which is kind of a good thing because I'm a little long. This shot kind of sucks, and this shot kind of sucks, and this shot kind of sucks.
It's not about the shoes you wear or the number on your back.
But you know what doesn't suck is slow motion. I'm tempted to just get all this stuff that sucks out. I'm a little worried about that. I liked how I went into this POV from here. But I'm not too worried about just chopping something brutally out of my timeline like that because I have dupe copies of this. The stretch stuff, it's just not that dynamic, I guess. Maybe if it was slow mode or something. Maybe I can pepper it in later on. Maybe I can do these push-ups later on somewhere. It's just not dynamic enough, especially not for the head of the video. The head of the video you really want to be just freaking cool as hell. Let's go back to the stuff I thought was actually cool, which is this smile thing. Why can't I have that? Let's get rid of just a few frames of the tail. I have them running both directions, don't I? Yeah, I do. I have them running both directions, so I can kind of choose here.
That begins your first challenge. Though you're unsure of it, it's the steps that explore.
I gotta leave these shots on longer, right? Because make the awesome things more awesome. So I feel like this is awesome, so we should make it more awesome.
Your world and yourself at your...
I mean, I just love seeing it. I am going to move up some of that dialogue now because now I'm starting to feel how things should fit. It's not about the speed of the destination. I feel like that is relevant to this earlier section. So let's just move up the dialogue a little bit. The part I actually like is right there.
It's not about the distance, the speed, the destination. It's not about the shoes you wear, or the number on your back, or how long you've been doing it. Now that I've got a solid assembly, it's time to polish this sucker up. You'll notice that I'm spending time trimming in shots, looking for better takes, syncing what's been said in the VO tightly to the picture. This is where the cut really becomes something that I might want to send someone else.
I like that we're talking about exploring your world and yourself here.
It's the steps that explore your world
and let's just add a little time, a little breath before and yourself. So that happens right on the cut. My dialogue is not glued yet to the images, but it's starting to be a little bit. We're talking about steps, I'm showing feet. We're talking about exploring, I'm showing the pebbles. We're getting there. I recognize that my timeline's way too long. I might need to change the music. Everything still might change, but ideas need to solidify. It's not that you have one great idea and you understand how the whole cut needs to be made. You figure out small little bits. And when you've got 100 little bits that work, all of a sudden something is starting to work. It's starting to gel as a whole.
That begins your first challenge. Though you're unsure of it, it's the steps that explore your world and yourself at your pace, direction, distance. It's about the extra step.
It's about the extra step is its own thing.
Direction, distance. It's about the extra step.
It's about the extra step. Okay, let's see what that extra step is.
Direction, distance. It's about the extra step that you are convinced you can't possibly take.
The bridge could be a bridge to anywhere. It's going to go out onto the street, as opposed to the bridge, then to the woods, and then back out onto the street. I'm just going to get rid of this shot. especially because we were going to use it earlier in the show. You don't have to use it twice. Then the other thing that I kind of felt like, originally I thought it was ridiculous to use the slow version across the bridge, but I gotta tell you, I'm kind of liking slow motion everything right now, because it's just something unique to look at. We don't look at life in slow motion every day. Does he literally have to enter the bridge? No. I'm going to have him somewhere in the middle already.
This is the trial of lungs demanding breath, legs crying for rest, feet burning for release. Our body reminds us that obstacles only exist if we choose the path they block. That struggle is often a sign of growth, and that life...
What's the last shot of the video? It's probably this one, right? Because he's done. I didn't feel like I needed this last bit. What have we done here? We've gotten rid of some of the suck and made the awesome things more awesome, but have we dipped to black with dialogue only? I feel like we should try that.
It's not about the distance, the speed, the destination. It's not about the shoes you...
You know, I wanted this stuff to show up right on that first beat. Maybe this dialogue happens over black. I don't know. I'm just trying out ideas. Let's see.
It's not about the distance, the speed, the destination. It's not about the shoes you...
It's actually not that bad. I'm sort of starting to get to a point where I do want to keep things audio-wise in line, because I do now have some ideas down the timeline that do need to happen at a certain time.
How new you are. Running is about learning to take a step. It's about the step that begins your first challenge.
Right on my in point here, I'm going to add another keyframe. Go a few frames forward and jack that guy back up to 300. And he might need to move over, but let's just watch.
It's about the step that begins your first challenge. Though you're unsure of it,
I definitely like that. It kind of smooths out going back to regular speed when we get to the pebbles.
Take a step. It's about the step that begins your first challenge. Though you're unsure of it, it's the steps that explore your world and yourself.
This opening section is just screaming for dialogue or something. It's just so slow up here. I think that I can use this black area because the video really gets some good oomph. I'm pretty close. I think in a couple of hours I'll be willing to send this to a director.
These changes could go on, but at some point you've got to put down the mouse and just send out your cut for feedback. Getting feedback from a director will save you time, just as it did in organizing this project. A director telling you that something is or isn't working will stop you from running down the wrong rabbit hole. And because in a montage we're always striving for some sort of storyline to grab onto with our cutting ideas, this will let you know what is working. With a few more touch-ups, we sent the cut out.
I did actually get notes from the director, and I think we'll all get a good feeling about what it's like to get notes back from a director, because I read some of these as they came in, and it was perfect. I mean, it made me so happy that I'm doing these Edit Out Loud videos. I might as well play this whole video so I can give us all a refresher of what is going on.
It's not about the distance, the speed, the destination. It's not about the shoes you wear, or the number on your back, or how long you've been doing it, or how new you are. Running is about learning to take a step. It's about the step that begins your first challenge. Though you're unsure of it, it's the steps that explore your world and yourself at your pace, direction, distance,
It's about the extra step that you are convinced you can't possibly take until you do. It's about learning to appreciate the journey that exists between every stride. We do not do it because it's easy. We run because, amidst the trial of lungs demanding breath, legs crying for rest, feet burning for release, our body reminds us that obstacles only exist if we choose the paths they block. That struggle is often a sign of growth, and that lives were not meant to be defined by steps we did not take.
Let's read some of the notes here. I liked your idea, but this shot seems out of place. My bad. Didn't think about the lighting. Can we get rid of this shot? You remember when I was talking about earlier that I didn't know if these shots fit in here either, but you got to show it to the director and make sure that they want to be the one to get rid of it. I like the shot, but you can see a small smile on my face. Do we have another shot like this? I love this note because, of course, as you guys heard, that's exactly what I was going for. I wanted the smile to be there, but he doesn't like it, I guess. I could stomp my feet and get all upset about, well, that smile is great and I loved it. Or I just put in something else. But the next version he gets is definitely not going to contain that smile, even though I spent a lot of time working on it. Also, the way this is currently sequenced, we go from the sidewalk to the forest pebbles, then back to the forest. I understand why you did that, to match the VO, the visuals. Is there any way we can move the pebble shot someplace else? I think what he's actually reacting to is not so much the pebbles shot as it is this shot right here. That we go to the feet here. I just didn't have any close-ups of feet otherwise. I'm going to get rid of this shot, and I'm going to try to figure out how to satisfy that note. That's good. The slow-mo part in this shot, but there seems to be something odd about the first part. Yeah, I was going for this where it goes regular speed first.
If we choose the paths they block, that struggle is often...
and then slows down, but now I'm just going to leave it slowed down. Were there any shots where the camera was just tracking the legs? I'll have to look at that. I didn't see that. I know the footage will be upside down. Is this shot not usable? Will that fit? I like it all the way from here. So before I give him my V2, let's bring up the sequence. And what's the first thing we do to every sequence? Duplicate. This is now version 2. Karthik notes. I'm kind of already parked on this shot, so I'm just going to get rid of this speed adjustment and have it.
Feet burning for release. Our body reminds us that obstacles only exist if we choose the paths they block. That struggle is often a sign of growth, and that lives were not meant to be defined by steps we did not take.
That's not totally fixed because I'm going to have to shorten this shot a little bit. It's a little ridiculous that it's so long. This shot we're just going to get rid of. I'm just deleting this out of the timeline. We'll figure out what goes here. And then here, he didn't like the smile. I actually have an idea of what I want in that shot's place, which is the other one that I really liked. It's one of these shots. There it is. We're just going to swap this shot for this one. Kind of as he comes into it. You know what it could be? The wide from the stretching. This guy that I never got to use. Let's see if that helps.
It's not about the distance. The speed, the destination. It's not about...
Where do we go from there? That's the question. What do we have? We can flop this. Let's just see what happens. I just am flopping it because I want him to be running in the same direction consistently. He says number on my back, and I kind of feel like that means we should go to the number on his back.
The speed, the destination. It's not about the shoes you wear, or the number on your back, or how long you've been doing it, or how new you are. Running is about learning to take a step. It's about the step that begins your first challenge.
You know, one thing I'm definitely noticing about this tail section, not only is this shot a little too long, but then we have a whole bit here without any dialogue. And I just feel like we're at 1:30. We're a little bit long in the video, so I just feel like I can get rid of 10 seconds here. That's going to require a little music editing. You've probably already seen some music edits here. Let's see what little section, a repeating section that we can get rid of here. Just soloing the music. You can see this range right here. That is pretty similar to the next range, which is right here. So I'm going to lift one of these out. Bang. And let's stitch these two together. Let's add one more frame to the A side. Yeah, that's pretty good. Now I'm just going to slap a 2-frame or a 4-frame dissolve here and see if it actually works. Yeah, that's okay. Now I get to cut this shot in half.
If we choose,
I'm getting rid of enough to make this happen right on the beat. Because this shot is all the same, it's kind of okay for me to keep just chopping it and chopping it and chopping it.
Reminds us that obstacles only exist if we choose the paths they block. That struggle is often a sign of growth, and that lives were not meant to be defined by steps we did not take.
Let's take a look at Karthik's notes and make sure I got everything.
Please, don't try to skip any of the director's notes. Do all the notes.
See, this is why we double check. Because I read that note about checking the legs, but I did not actually follow up. You can't do notes and miss one. If the director asks about something, you got to show them. Without a script supervisor, without a line script, and without any kind of slates, it makes it hard to tell the difference between these two shots in the bin. I guess I missed that shot, which is too bad. And obviously it goes here, and my only issue with this is how dark it is. And that's something Karthik noticed too. Let's flip to color correction mode. This is one of the rare times that I recommend doing a little bit of color correction without waiting for it to lock. It's only so that I can make some sort of story note. Can I get these legs to come out a little bit? But notice that I'm really just, I'm not
Often a sign of growth.
I'm not being that careful about how it actually looks. So let's just see how this fits.
Feet burning for release. Our body reminds us that obstacles only exist if we choose the paths they block. That struggle is often a sign of growth, and that lives
This should probably go first.
crying for rest. Feet burning for release. Our body reminds us that obstacles only exist if we choose the paths they block. That struggle.
It's also making me wish that I had one more audio tempo here to work with, because now I really like this shot. Again, we're going to expand this back out now, our music edit.
Notice that just a minute ago I cut the music shorter and now I'm expanding it. So what gives? Editing instructor Paul Petchek once told me that anything relatively complex that we create needs to have sections. And he is totally right. He also said no matter how complicated the scene gets, you need to be able to expand the sections or contract the time and space.
So we did.
We run because, amidst the trial of lungs demanding breath, legs crying for rest, feet burning for release, our body reminds us that obstacles only exist if we choose the paths they block. That struggle is often a sign of growth.
I like it enough that I want it to keep going. Just want to get in before that struggle.
If we choose the paths they block, that struggle is often a sign of
Yeah, that's better. And again, I'm going to try my idea of leaving this a little empty longer.
growth, and that lives were not meant to be defined by steps
we did not take.
Cool. Obviously, I'm going to watch this down one more time, see if I have any other tweaks, and then I'm going to send this.
It's time to watch the locked cut. This is what the director and I got to after a night of reworking the edit. Quick note here about the music. This is the final music, but we just haven't purchased it yet, which is why you're going to hear the watermark from musicbed.com. I do like their service, and I recommend everyone buy music from them.
It's not about the distance, the speed, the destination. It's not about the shoes you wear, or the number on your back, or how long you've been doing it, or how new you are. Running is about learning to take a step. It's about the step that begins your first challenge. Though you're unsure of it, it's the steps that explore your world and yourself at your pace, direction, distance. It's about the extra step that you are convinced you can't possibly take until you do. It's about learning to appreciate the journey that exists between every stride. We do not do it because it's easy. We run because, amidst the trial of lungs demanding breath, legs crying for rest, feet burning for release, our body reminds us that obstacles only exist if we choose the paths they block, that struggle is often a sign of growth, and that lives were not meant to be defined by steps we did not take.
The most obvious change we made was the music. Mostly it was because we felt like the original song was repetitive. There weren't really enough sections in it, and there weren't really enough crescendos. You saw the best crescendo here, when the runner hits slow motion. It's important to build moments like that and to constantly have those in mind. Even when I was editing the first pass of this, I was thinking about those crescendos, if you can remember back to when we were looking at the opening song. The big problem with changing music halfway through was that the pace seemed really different. Because the pace was different, that led me to make a really big recut. In the musically faster section up front, I didn't feel like I had time for those dips to black. I didn't really have time for the exercises. I just needed to get going. Then I came up with a great idea for getting him out of the garage. The two big challenges I was having was how to best reveal his face and how to get him out of the garage running already. So what I did here was to match shapes. I matched the shape of the garage silhouette body with the shape of the POV's body. I also cut out of the garage when the garage door was open at about eye level with the POV shot. This is really subtle. I'm not even sure anyone's going to notice that exactly, but I do think it helps smooth the cut. It's what Walter Murch calls eye trace. We'll accept this cut a little bit more because we're already looking at that part of the frame anyway. The best part about this recut was that now our main character's face reveals in a beautiful, strong way as he's in full stride in slow motion. It's like it was meant to be this way. It's funny to look back on the old cuts now because this solution is so simple. This was the best shot. We should have always used this shot as the face reveal. This also solves the continuity problem we were having with the sunglasses. These long dissolves were the idea of the director. I really like the idea. Collaboration always brings the best results as long as everyone is giving their authentic artistic opinion. Remember how we changed the music? When the director mentioned to me that the old music we were using felt a little repetitive, I knew he was right away. And I also knew that it would mean a lot of recutting, rethinking, and so on. But you got to ask yourself, is this new music better? If the answer is yes, then you have to use it, no matter how much of a pain in the butt it is to recut. People only remember what they see, not how hard it was, not how long it took to edit. Just be honest. At the end here, notice that we didn't abandon all the ideas that we came up with when using the other temp music. We still cut out on the beat from that wide shot to end our show. And we're still approximately at the same duration. Editing is about lots of little decisions that add up to a larger whole. All right, that's all we've got time for today. Let's turn it back over to Michael Horton in the studio.